On the way home, Ahmed from Bethlehem. After the Palestinians were expelled from their homes in 1948, some of them tried to return by taking bypass roads. Many were shot for doing this. One of them was Al-Hajj Abdurrahman. He left his pregnant wife and 2 hungry sons to go back to his house and bring food for them. When he got to the front of his old house, an Israeli mine exploded and he died immediately. His poor wife was so worried after hours of waiting that she decided to go and look for her husband. On her way home, Israeli forces saw her and shot her in her arm. She kept bleeding for hours until she died, leaving 2 orphans. A lost baby, Maria from Bethlehem. In 1948, the massacres started with Deir Yassin. At the time, I lived with my husband and my baby boy in Jaffa. My husband was a doctor. I was with my little son at home when the clashes started. I was afraid, so I stayed looking out of the window to see if my husband would come back. He didn't, and I became desperate. I went to my neighbors and I left my son there. When the clashes stopped, I went to take my little baby, but I couldn't find him. The Israelis had brought him away while taking over the Palestinian houses for occupation by Israeli families. After a week, I found my baby with an Israeli family. I came over to the family to work for them as a servant in order to be with my baby. With some boys and girls, I planned to kidnap my baby. First, I did not succeed. At last, I took him with me. I was beside myself with happiness after I had my son back.
Drawing, Fuad from Bethlehem. I saw a kid of 8 years old drawing on the street. I was curious, so I sat beside him. He looked at me, but kept drawing. He was drawing a grave of a young boy. The young boy was sitting up in his grave, ready to walk out of it. Another boy, younger than the boy in the grave, was standing next to it. He had a football in his hands. At the other side of the drawing, the 2 boys were playing football together. I saw a tear running down the boy's cheek. I asked who the boy in the grave was, and he answered, his brother. He didn't need to say any more. His brother died, and all he wished for was his brother to come back.
Under the boot, Rana from Bethlehem. In the summer vacation, my eldest son used to help his uncle in his shop. One day, Palestinian youths organized a demonstration, expressing their anger by shouting and singing. My son took part in this. The soldiers started to fire tear gas at them. The Palestinian youths reacted by throwing stones and then ran away. My son went to hide in his uncle's shop, but Israeli soldiers followed him and dragged him out. They beat him all over his body while they kicked their boots on his head. His uncle tried to get him free, but was threatened himself. My sister-in-law, who used to have an American passport, tried to talk him free, but was told, "You are an American. You shouldn't be here. Leave the country for your own safety." At last, my son was released.
The milkman and his donkey, Elias from Beit Jala. Once a milkman from Beit Jala used to sell fresh milk while riding his donkey. Among his customers were the priests of the Mar Elias monastery to the north of Bethlehem, an area which became part of annexed East Jerusalem. The man was lucky enough to cross the Israeli checkpoint to sell his milk with his donkey without a permit. One day, the milkman arrived with his donkey at the checkpoint. Israeli soldiers asked, "Where is your permit and your donkeys too?" He answered, "You have been allowing me to cross to sell my milk for many, many years." So they told him that his donkey could pass with the milk, but that he should stay at the checkpoint. The donkey went directly to the monastery, as this was its routine. The monks at the monastery emptied the barrels of milk, and the donkey came back to the checkpoint, and the Beit Jala milkman returned home. Everyone waiting at the checkpoint, as well as the soldiers, were astonished.
I caught his hand, my Sarah from Bethlehem. During the Jewish June War in 1967, when I was a child, we lived in a simple shelter, a cave for sheep. My parents divided the cave into two parts, one for the animals and the other one for our family. My family thought about leaving for Jordan as we were all afraid of the Israeli army. Some of the family appealed to my father to leave the cave, but I was worried about him and about us. So many terrible things could happen if we tried to escape to Jordan. One day he decided that he wanted to leave. He was at the doorstep and was about to put on his shoes, but I hid one of them among the remains of an animal. I also caught his hand and held it tightly. In the end, he managed to stay steadfast in our house. He did not become a refugee for the second time.
Birthday cake, Yusuf from Jehan. Many prisoners were refugees. I was 13 when I was arrested for the first time. When they wanted to catch me, I ran away. They captured two of my friends and tortured them until they mentioned my name. Then, in the night, they came to my home with a large group. I was lying in bed, waiting. I knew they were after me. When they found me, they said, "This is the chick." I stayed in jail only a few days. I was arrested for the second time when I was 15. I then spent 2 years in jail. I had my birthday there. A Palestinian detainee succeeded to bring me some bread and jam, and I made a small birthday cake and told the guys through the windows to sing all together.
Lama, Mary from Bethlehem. Last Christmas, my family decided to go to Jerusalem as we got the Christmas holiday permits from Israel. My father was the first person to go through the checkpoint. The soldier asked, "What is your family's name?" My father answered, "Lama." The soldier repeated the same question, and my father gave the same answer, "Lama." The soldier lost patience and kept asking, repeating the same question, and my father gave the same answer. The soldier started shouting. People started crying and nobody knew what was happening. The captain of the checkpoint came in a hurry to investigate the issue. He questioned my father again, "What is your family name?" My father answered again in a very polite way, "Lama." After some moments, the captain realized what the problem was. The word Lama in Hebrew means why. In fact, a good question at these checkpoints.
Afraid, just like we are. Amin from Doha. I can still hear the sound of the jeeps and the soldiers echoing in the alleyway. Anytime we heard that sound, we would disappear and hide until the jeeps passed. One time, my friend and I were outside in the trees picking fruit. A jeep drove up to us and stopped, and the soldiers asked us for water. We froze, shocked that they were talking to us. We gave them water to drink, and one of the soldiers was playing with a soccer ball with one of the other children. He said if his commander caught him being friendly with the Palestinians, he would be in trouble, and that he was afraid of being caught, but he wanted to play with the children. My friend and I thought, wow, soldiers are just like us. They drink water just like we do, and they are afraid just like we are.
The Baby and the Soldiers, a story from Nablus. Israeli soldiers were beating up a man in a crowded street. From all sides, people rushed to the scene. Suddenly, a woman with a baby came forward to the man and shouted, "Why is it always you who makes problems and goes to demonstrations? I am fed up. Take this baby of yours, and I don't want to see you ever again." She laid the baby in the hands of the man and ran away. The soldiers left the scene in confusion. When quiet came, the man returned the baby to the woman. They had never seen each other before.
Best grade, Hassan from Bethlehem. When I applied for college to study cinematic art, I was first not accepted. I could not eat or sleep. I called the professor and told him not to judge people before knowing them. Next day, I was conditionally accepted. Then I found out that I had to pay my tuition in full, up front. In the past, I used to receive scholarship from the Ministry of Prisoners' Affairs. This time, there was nobody to help me. But I managed. For my final graduation project, I had to film a documentary. I saw reports about the settlers' assaults on Palestinians in Hebron and decided to make a documentary about it. When I told my professor, he told me I was crazy. In fact, I got beaten and assaulted, but this did not stop me from filming. I got the best grade in the class.
Sodium, Ellen from Bethlehem. During the first Intifada at the end of the 1980s, while I was in front of my house in the Antara quarter of Bethlehem, I heard school children screaming. They had inhaled tear gas thrown at them by the soldiers. I went back to my house quickly and prepared a bucket of water with sodium carbonate. I hurried out to help them. The soldiers were after them, shooting tear gas canisters and even live bullets. Some of the children fainted. Although a soldier yelled at me, I handed the clothes soaked in the sodium water to the fainting boys to help them cope with the tear gas. Some soldiers tried to grab the clothes from the boys, but they did not succeed, and at last they had to retreat. Love, Ellen from Beit Jehan. My son fell in love with a girl from Jerusalem. It was difficult for him to visit her because he needed a permit, but she was able to come and visit him here in Bethlehem. He could not get permission to visit her, even when she became ill. After 4 years, she died. She put in her will that she wanted my son to carry her coffin at the funeral. He tried to get a permit to do this, but this was denied. He decided to go to Jerusalem without a permit. The Israeli soldiers caught him, beat him badly, and put him in prison for 30 days. He missed the funeral. He had a nervous breakdown and was ill for 2 years.
Standing up, Fahmi from Artas. I am a Palestinian young man from Artas on the southwest of Bethlehem. I used to work inside the Green Line of 1948. When I took the Israeli bus on my way to work, an elderly Israeli woman entered the bus. She looked for an empty seat, but there were no vacant seats left, and nobody offered her a seat. Her clothes were wet because of the rainfall, and immediately after I saw her, I stood up quickly. The woman looked at me and said, "Where are you from?" I replied, "I am a Palestinian from Bethlehem." Then she quickly asked me, "Do you know that all passengers on board are Israelis?" I answered her, "Yes." She then added, "But not a single person moved aside. But you Arab Palestinians have more respect to the old people." "Thank you," I told her. "This is a part of our human values and education."
The boy, Rana from Bethlehem. At the beginning of the second Intifada in 2000, a boy from Jehan visited my husband's shop near Rachel's tomb to buy a sandwich. It was just after the Friday prayer. At that moment, some youths gathered in the area to throw stones at the Israeli army in the military tower near the wall. The soldiers started to fire live bullets at them. We heard that a 13-year-old boy was shot in the head and had died. A curfew was imposed so that my husband and his mother were trapped in the shop. My husband used a curtain for his mother to sleep on, but no sleep was possible as the soldiers made too much noise. After the curfew was lifted, my husband heard that the child who was killed was the one who had bought the sandwiches. Too late, Munir from Walad. In January 2002, my son was in his house and was shot by an Israeli soldier. He was still alive but was bleeding heavily and needed medical help as soon as possible. It was 2 hours before the ambulance was allowed to reach his house. They took him to hospital in Beit Jehan. His injuries were very serious and he was losing a lot of blood, so the doctor said he had to go to hospital in Jerusalem and have major surgery. In order to go to Jerusalem, he needed a permit, and this was only given after 3 hours. Only my son was allowed to go to Jerusalem. My husband and I could not go with him. Unfortunately, the permission came too late. On his way to hospital in Jerusalem, he died in the ambulance, without his family present. One day it will fall. Mira from Bethlehem. I really don't like to look at the wall. My youngest son recently asked me when we walked by the wall what a specific graffiti painting meant. It was a picture of a dove with an olive branch. I told him that it represented peace and that we as Palestinian people hope we will have peace in the future. But in fact, I don't want my children to look at the pictures and the colors on the wall and to ask me what they mean. What can you say? Most of the time I try to ignore the wall. I know it is there, but one day it will fall. We still have hope, and as long as we have hope, everything is possible.
Into the water, Amir from Bethlehem. During exams in the 7th grade, my friend used to walk with me to school. On our way, we would review together. While walking one hot morning, my friend and I decided to stop at a spring to drink some water. While I was drinking water, I suddenly fell down in the water. My friend tried to pull me out, but he couldn't, so he ran to call for help. Some people came and rescued me and took me home. There, they discovered I had been hit by a bullet and was bleeding. Immediately, they took me to the hospital. I was in a coma for 2 days.
Rolling down, Aliyah from Bethlehem. During the Second Intifada, my older friend was chosen to participate in the national basketball competition in the United Arab Emirates. He had to pass through a checkpoint east of Bethlehem in order to cross the Allenby Bridge into Jordan and take a night flight from Amman. To cross the checkpoint quickly, he decided to leave his car, carry his luggage, and climb the hill nearby the checkpoint. When he reached the top of the hill, sweat dripping from his face as it was July, the soldiers saw him. They began chasing him, and while running back, he fell with his luggage from the top of the hill. He rolled all the way down, getting caught by rocks along the way, and ran back to his car. He waited for hours until he passed the checkpoint, then continued his long journey to Amman. Unfortunately, he missed the flight because of the delay and lost the chance to participate in the tournament. Standoff, Mary from Bethlehem. I went to the checkpoint with my children after getting Easter permits at the parish. As always, our rings and jewelry had to be put in the basket to go through the metal detector. My 9-year-old daughter took off her bracelet. She went in and out of the metal detector several times, each time taking off something new, but the machine kept beeping. Then the female soldier behind the bulletproof glass asked her to take off her pants right there in public. Can you imagine? Would you allow your daughter to take off her pants just like that with everybody around? I told the soldier, why can't you take her somewhere private to search her? She asked me to go back to Bethlehem. I told her, you have nothing to do here. Go back yourself to Tel Aviv.
Blank check. Tamam from Walaji. Al-Hajj Abu Ahmed taught his children to be Samit, perseverant, and stay in the land of the new Walaji, especially because his land is near an Israeli settlement. He would tell his sons and grandchildren, I will give my life to this land. Please, take care of it after I am gone. When Israel began building the wall, his property was an obstacle to their plans. The Israeli military could change the path of the wall or buy Al-Hajj's land. They offered him a blank check, asking him to put the amount he wanted for his land. He told them, even if you bring me all the gold in the world, I will not sell my house and land. The military felt that there was no choice except to change the track of the wall. Al-Hajj Abu Ahmed was victorious in the Battle of Samud and Perseverance. After a few months, he bade farewell and passed away quietly.
Olive harvest, Haida from Bethlehem. Because of the wall, the Israelis confiscated our land full of olive trees. We cannot cultivate it anymore, nor build upon it. In the past, we used to harvest the olives with all the family together, young and old. Schools were closed for a couple of days, and everyone was on holiday. All the family went to the land and put down blankets under the trees. During the picking, we sang traditional songs. We left a part of the olives for oil and salads, and the rest we kept. But now we are buying instead of selling oil. In fact, we can barely buy oil because of the economic situation.
Dance, Francis from Beit Jala. During a dance party at a celebration, I was sitting at a table with a group of friends. A beautiful girl caught my attention while passing by my table. My heart started pounding. I went and asked my sister if she knew the girl. She said, "I don't know her, and even if I did, I wouldn't tell you." She added, "Go ahead and introduce yourself." After mustering up enough courage, I went forward towards the girl's table. I approached her father, saying, "Uncle, I come to ask your permission in order to dance with your daughter." Her father answered me, "I have no objection." At that moment, I became more daring and asked the girl to dance with me. She accepted. We danced together for a long time, as if no walls and darkness existed.
Not as a family, Mira from Bethlehem. We have an aunt living behind the wall, on the Jerusalem side. Before they built the wall, we used to visit her all the time. But now we can only go when we have a permit, maybe at Christmas. But then most of the time they only give me a permit and not my husband, or the other way around. But we want to go as a family, to feel freedom, to go and see the sea, for instance. The children ask me, "Mama, we want to go and have fun, why can't we go?" I tell them that we cannot go because we are living in a prison and do not have permission to leave. We cannot go because we are controlled by the Israelis. I tell them because I think they need to know.
A child's prayer. George from Bethlehem. Once a little girl in Bethlehem went for a walk in the countryside. She lost her way and did not know how to get back home. She panicked and was afraid. After a while, she saw a farmer who asked her, "Do you want me to show you the way back to your house?" The girl replied, "Yes, and I've been waiting for you to help me." "How?" he asked. "I was praying." He asked her, "You are a little girl. You do not know how to pray." She answered him, "I know the alphabet. I recite all the characters and ask God to compose them into sentences and prayers to send me someone to take me back home." The farmer was touched by her confidence and faith in God. Even when you are small, you can overcome problems by a strong faith, though the obstacles may look unconquerable, like this wall.